Happy Wednesday, everybody, and thanks for checking into the TDR Trade to Black podcast. I'm your host, sdales. Whoa, what a close that was. Cannabis stocks continue to rip. Good Friday is a holiday this week, a shortened week. But man, oh man, this industry is healthy. It's alive. Lots of speculation going on. It's all kinds of stuff to dive into. And let's welcome in our TDR co-host, Anthony Varell. And wow,
how's it going?
What a day again. Look at some of these names, including Canopy investors. This was down at 1.30% on Monday. Today, I think it was up at 30%. Did you see what it closed at just now?
Yeah, it closed up 32%. You had MSOX up 15%. Verano was up 14%. Aurora's up 12%. Acreage was up 12%. SNDL, which I made a move into today, was up 10%. Great day across the board. Strong strength into the close. The Canadians led the way for most of the day. And I mean, granted, it wasn't super heavy volume on the U.S. side, but still, to see the names turn green and double digits into the green going into the close was nice to see.
You having fun? This is
good. It's nice seeing my portfolio go up.
Industry is healthy. Also happy to announce that a week from today on the live stream, Nancy Mace will be coming on. We confirmed that this morning, so that will be exciting as we talk to her about the future of cannabis and really how she got into it. But we'll also be following up with her in Washington 2 weeks from today. Can't believe that's 2 weeks. But you highlighted, like I said, some notable names that were up here today. So let's jump into the wire. Continue momentum. We've seen a lot of companies elect to raise capital both in the public in private markets with recent news, healthy to say the least. So based on some of the stuff that we've highlighted, what is some of the activity that you came across today and even late last night that you're currently seeing?
Yeah, I mean, there's actually been some capital markets activity this week. Air Wellness upsized their current mortgage to $8.4 million. They said they want to use that for they didn't say they want to use it for CapEx specifically. They said they wanted to use it for facility improvements and working capital. And I mean, one of the main takeaways that David gave us when he came on for the earnings report was that they're going to need to build indoor grow in Florida.
Yeah,
I would expect to see them to start expanding on their current footprint in Florida, start to deploy the CapEx to get that adult use, to get that indoor grow built out ahead of adult use and keep building the name. I mean, also it was nice to see that Air rolled out their Kind edibles this week. Probably going to go pick some of them up and see how that product is, and see how they're doing with Kiva, rolling out with their Camino edibles in Florida as well. Aside from that, AFC Gamma had a pretty big PR yesterday with Sunburn, which we're going to get more into once Brady comes on in segment 2. But they issued a $34 million senior secured debt facility to Sunburn, another Florida company tapping the capital markets, and then to a lot of people's surprise, OGI did an overnight offering last night of 25 million Canadian. This was not very well received today. Stock was down, I think, well over 20% intraday, finished the day down 15%. Chart's been strong over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to see this get eaten up and OGI start to return to where it was before the offering. But this is a trend I think we're going to see continue. Companies are going to tap the capital markets. They're going to need to re-equitize their balance sheets, get CapEx to deploy going into these growth markets ahead of adult use. And I mean, I don't think this is going to be a trend that we don't see a continuation of.
I know.
Moving forward.
A lot. We're just at the beginning stages, I think. A lot of stuff that's going to be announced, and I think that'll only be fast-tracked if and when we get some positive news with regards to the adult use being included on the ballot in Florida, which we will obviously be knowing by 11 a.m. tomorrow as the Supreme Court comes up with their weekly comments. But I guess my question I was going to ask you, is this a trend of announcements that you think that we continue to see, which is an overwhelming yes. But Air Wellness, heavy focus on the medicinal side with this. You know, you almost get the impression that a lot of these people that are within the state of Florida right now, they have to believe that adult use is going to pass, don't you think, with the moves that they're making?
I would think so. I mean, Air Wellness is one of the names that I own in my portfolio. I think it's one of the names that a lot of people have a lot of attention on as an undervalued play in Florida, especially with their footprint in Florida.
Yeah.
I think that obviously we'll get more into this with Brady in the next segment. But I mean, I think that we're going to hear nothing tomorrow. I think the time's going to elapse. It's going to come down to April 1st or April 2nd, tick after midnight, and it's going to be automatically put on the ballot. I think Ricketts.
As you've said before, no news is good news. All right, into the wire here on the TDR Trade of Black podcast. Thanks for checking in on a Wednesday. I'm your host, Shad Dales, with Anthony Varell, the TDR co-host. And lots of action going on, healthy everywhere in this industry, and no shortage of news, both positive and negatively. So no news, as you said, with the shot clock running out, but we got news out of Washington today where Senators Mitt Romney and two other senators are urging the DEA to reject the HHS recommendation to reschedule cannabis. Anthony, why?
So this was by three senators, Mitt Romney, Pete Ricketts, and Jim Risch or Jim Reich. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that. Kind of insignificant in the grand scheme of things as far as their political influence goes. I mean, a lot of the times where Mitt Romney zigs, everyone else zags, or the other way around. This was focused on the implications of the UN treaty as it relates to scheduled narcotics. I would have to tell them, why don't you go ask the Germans and ask the Canadians how they took this treaty into account when they passed their legal framework around cannabis.
Yeah.
There's several other implications you can make here, but this was Sam's groundbreaking and big news of the day. The three senators that signed on for this letter to urge the DEA to take. Well, there was actually some silver lining in this letter. Senator Romney, when drafting the letter, urged the DEA to take a fact-based and science-based approach to rescheduling cannabis.
Yep.
They've got the HHS recommendation, so that aligns with what he was saying. But this treaty, I think, is a reach as per framing the rescheduling of cannabis in a negative light. I mean, I think this is Romney talking to his base. His base is heavily against cannabis, heavily ingrained in the Mormon faith, as they're heavily ingrained against substance use. So this doesn't surprise me, but there's three senators. Bring me a long list of influential people in Washington that are opposing cannabis legislation, and I will think it's cause for concern. Until then, the opposition that we're facing doesn't really have any strong arguments. They're grasping at straws here. This is their big news. Great.
I know.
I mean, go right ahead.
Love the way these people think, but give me a big pharma pill and everything's okay, right?
Yeah, I mean, Senator Romney actually has about in excess of $8 million from Big Pharma contributing to his 2022 campaign efforts.
I'm glad that you highlighted that. That actually is a very important piece to the story, but I think that's where people go, aha. You know, it's funny. Back last summer in a Twitter Spaces, we actually spoke to Don Murphy, and the question was asked, does he believe Big Pharma has any kind of like influence on whether or not cannabis grows, gets rescheduled, safe banking? His response was no. They don't even look at this. They have other things to worry about. But here we are 8-9 months later, and I have to ask the question, you know, do you think there is some accuracy or some certainty or even some speculation as to, like, does Big Pharma, in your opinion, it's got to have some sort of influence? I'd love to ask that question again with Don.
Somewhat. I don't think it has enough to talk about or dwell on. I mean, cannabis obviously is an alternative to many of the pharmaceutical substances that we see, but I don't think that they're really sitting there just rallying and lobbying against us.
Yeah. Well, the big question that we need to ask is that, look, for some of these senators and congressmen and women, when we speak to them in 2 weeks, is yes, we've got their attention, but what is it going to take to get safe banking across the line and why it's taking so long? But we'll ask those questions in 2 weeks. It'll be interesting. All right, let's now focus on to headline number 3 here at Into the Wire. And I don't think there's really much to like dive in here, knowing that we've discussed this a number of times over the last week or two. But is it official? Is Germany official?
It's official.
Now official?
It is official. Congratulations. They've signed this into law. It goes into effect on Monday. Germany got it done. That's it. That's all we need to talk about. Nothing's getting pushed. Cannabis is legalized and taken off the narcotics list officially in Germany. Right. Congratulations.
Reporting from Frankfurt, Germany, I'm Shad Dales with Anthony Varell. All right, that's all we need to discuss. All right, our guest is on a tight clock right now. He's got to be out by 4:30. So let's welcome back as we bring in segment number 2. He is the CEO of Sunburn Cannabis, a friend of the podcast and one of the most smartest people within this industry. Brady Cobb, back to the podcast. Good to see you, sir. How are things? Oh, I think he's on mute. Are you on mute, my friend? Technical difficulties. Please stand by.
All right, just give me 1 second here, Brady. If you can just check the wheel at the bottom. So your mic's not on there for some reason. Let me kick this one. I might fix it.
Let me check. Can you hear us, my friend?
All right. We'll be right back with you guys in 2 seconds here.
Yeah, all good.
Hit that wheel bar and you should see an audio mic selection there.
Hold on 1 second, sir.
Still can't hear you.
All right.
We'll bring him down.
He will be right back.
Thanks for joining us. We now bring you back to your regularly scheduled program. Okay, so we're obviously going to highlight, let us know some comments and questions when we get Brady back on, everybody. But obviously, we're going to be touching on the Supreme Court and with their announcement, with their weekly comments tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. As Anthony has indicated, we do strongly believe that no comments will be made. And if that is indeed the case, interesting to see more and more, I think, speculation, rumors, excitement that pertains to this space.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of excitement. I'm actually curious to see if I'm right or wrong that the names are going to move. The Florida-based names are going to move in conjunction with this tomorrow. And then we got him back.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
There
we can hear you now.
Hey, guys. Sorry about that.
Love those hats, man. Got to talk to who makes those hats, but those are great.
Oh, I got a couple for you guys if you're down here for Benzinga. No problem.
Yes, we will be there. We actually are renting our Mercedes cargo van. It'll look like a nightclub on the inside, but if you've got time, we'd love to have you come on down and we'll cruise up and down the A1A.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Some people had some interesting questions about as to what's going to go on in that van, but I can't really comment on some of those questions right now, but it'll be fun and it'll be great.
I have no doubt. I can easily provide assistance with the atmosphere and the vibe, so we'll have some fun.
Oh, yeah, that'll be good. No windows either, so that'll be great. Anyway, let's jump into today's podcast. First up, as we've discussed off the top, we've got basically Supreme Court weekly comments tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Obviously, the deadline basically on whether or not adult use is on this ballot come next fall, and that deadline is Monday, April the 1st. So Anthony believes no comments will be made. In this case, as we've said, no news is good news. Do you believe and agree with that?
I do believe and agree with it. I think, look, I'm bullish. I think in either scenario, I think if they rule, it's going to be in favor of putting it on the ballot. And or they're just not going to say anything and let it happen by operation of law. But I am net positive, irrespective of how we get to that finish line, I am net positive that it's going to end up on the ballot. And then the real work actually begins. You're talking about a 2024 presidential election that is going to be probably the most contentious of our respective times. You're going to have, Florida as a key swing state, as probably one of the most important states from a kind of societal standpoint. It's one of the hottest states for net population gain, unless you watch CNN in California. It's one of the largest growing economies, job creation, as well as, love him or hate him, Governor DeSantis kept Florida open, kept Florida free, and there's a ton of people moving here. The good news is a lot of those people are moving here from states that already have passed recreational cannabis. So you had a lot of the net population gains coming from California, from Washington, from Oregon, from Illinois, from New Jersey, from New York, even though I don't know if we can really truly call New York recreational because they can't seem to get out of the way of social engineering. But nonetheless, it is recreational in New York. So I think if it gets on the ballot, it's got a pretty good shot of passing. We carried medical with 72% in 2016 when Trump carried Florida. So it's got a really good shot. It's just there's got a lot of work that's going to have to happen, and there's going to be a lot of money that's going to need to be spent because the interest against it will come out. And it won't necessarily be against cannabis. It'll be against the impact that cannabis will have on down ballot issues and candidates when these people go out to vote. So I think it's more of a political objection. I think we're kind of past the moral objections in Tallahassee. I think the biggest special interest objections are going to be more on a political front and stretch. In my opinion, if I was a political strategist advising, let's call it the Republican Party, I would say don't make a big fuss about it because you don't want to shine a light on it. I don't know if they're going to follow that guidance, or that's been the guidance that I've delivered to those that are, positions of power on it.
Okay.
Don't shine a light on it. Let it just go. People seem to like it. Don't make it a bigger issue than it needs to be. But, who knows what they ultimately do. But I do believe tomorrow will be a net positive day for the Florida cannabis industry. And arguably, it's got to be one of the top 2 markets in the world if it goes. So
Let's
it'd be
hope.
a net positive for by our math, it's 118 million people over the age of 21 as potential consumers on an annual basis.
Uh-huh.
And the difference between
Decent.
Florida and like a Nevada or an Illinois, and then I'll shut up, is look at the nature of the tourism in Illinois
Correct.
and Nevada. It's a lot of B2B. It's a lot of it's conferences and business travel. People come to Florida to have a good fucking time. They come down here to go to Key West. They come down here to go to Fort Lauderdale, Miami. They come down here to go to the parks in Orlando. They go to Sarasota on the beaches. They go to Naples. It's Jimmy Buffett lifestyle. Come chill out for the most part. And cannabis fits right in with that. And that's where we positioned our brand to kind of fit in as a natural
I was going to
extension of what
say,
they're already doing.
if I'm not mistaken, I think Sunburn has a pretty good geographic footprint with what you just mentioned in all of those spots in Florida.
Which
and you mentioned now the work is really going to begin. I mean, I know we saw Trulieve throw a lot of money at Smart and Safe to get the initiative to where it's at. I think Kim threw north of 40 million at it.
Carried a lot of water for everybody.
I'm assuming there's going to be an influx of more capital that's going to need to be raised on the back end of this to start to generate the grassroots efforts and outreach and really get people to the polls. Correct?
100%. 100%.
Okay.
I think you're going to see all the MSOs step up. I mean, everyone's going to play a role basically.
Yeah.
Kim, we haven't always gotten along. I will give her the ultimate credit. This thing goes and this happens and this value creation moments happens. It's completely at her. It's at her doing. She knocked she carried a big weight, took on a big risk.
Yeah.
And big tip of the hat to her for doing it. But at the same time, she's funded 40 million, but she's also got 133 stores. She's CVS of Florida. She's going to win the biggest.
Yep.
But you talk about a market size. I've heard anywhere from 3 billion to 12 billion. If you were to take in a fully mature full year market, if you were to take, $5 to $6 billion market, if I can go carve out I've got a 7 share now. If I can go keep a 5 share, I'm perfect, happy.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to kick in my share to do it. So
you're still printing money.
Yeah. At the end of the day, this is a big moment. And it's interesting to see Florida, even though it's been a top 5 medical market, it kind of is not given the, top 5 market, it's probably top 8 market overall, medical or recreational. It's definitely probably the largest medical market, I would believe, in the country right now, medical only. And it doesn't get a lot of respect when you look at how markets are stacked up against one another. And I think this will be a big wake-up call for everybody on just how, for booze, I study alcohol, as you guys know quite a bit. For booze, it's a top 3. So the natural extension of that is, people are down here having a good time. So it's naturally going to flow that you're going to see, and there'll be a push. There's a lot of MSOs that either are here and don't have a real presence, and or are not here yet. I think you're going to see, if everybody jumped in Maryland, I think you're going to see a flurry of M&A of people trying to scale up and get ready in Florida.
Yeah, that's true.
Speaking of that, I know that you just closed on that $34 million facility yesterday. I'm assuming we should expect to see some expansion within the Sunburn footprint here coming up within the state.
Yeah, we're focused on Florida. We're looking at some kind of ground up organic opportunities in new states in the South that may come online. Yeah. But we are working on some activity for, I've always believed it's easier to buy than build.
Mm-hmm.
So we're definitely looking at a few operators that may not make it all the way to adult use or realize that they're just not set up to compete in a Florida market. It's hyper competitive, even though, again, a lot of people don't want to talk about it. It's a competitive market. You have everybody here, and there's kind of 2 buckets of operators. You have people that are trying to build a real brand, which there's a very slim majority, us and 1 or 2 others, and then the rest are, basically price operators. They market everything on price. So if you see a big spike, Cresco Labs, you saw a big spike in them recently. They also ran really aggressive sales. They improved their flower quality a little bit and ran incredibly aggressive sales.
I was there buying eighths for $20 2 weeks ago.
There you go.
Curaleaf
just ran, 75 or 80% off. I think I get, we get all the emails in the office when their promos come out. One went 60, one went 70, and then one went 80. I mean,
Yeah.
so there's the price shopper, which makes sense to some extent in Florida, because if you look at Publix is the largest grocer in Florida. They've got a 78 share of the grocery market in Florida.
78. Wow.
78. Anytime you walk into a Publix, there's something on BOGO. They make the manufacturers eat it. Every aisle. So the Florida consumer that's been here for any period of time has shopped at Publix, has been conditioned to shop on price. If Right Guard's on sale this week for deodorant and next week it's Old Spice, you're buying Old Spice next week, you're buying Right Guard this week. So that price proposition makes sense. We just took a little bit of a different route in trying to build a real brand that's anchored in Florida.
So,
we're not trying to bring Cali to Florida.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Culture is everything, right?
Yeah. So kind of going into that. I mean, I'm an avid shopper at Sunburn. People know that. You guys have been scaling your sales. I look at the OMU numbers. What are you doing that's working, that's resonating with the consumer, from a product's perspective?
It's having a wide enough array. It's really hard in a vertical market, as a lot of people have found out. It's hard because there is no safety valve. If I want to have rosin gummies, I can't call and say, okay, I'm going to make distillate gummies in-house, but I'll have my rosin gummies be wholesale. You got to do it.
Yeah.
So really leaning in and doing the hard work in year one to come up with a competitive array of products, but also new and innovative products, the aged hash, the rosin pens, buckets, rosin buckets, which we were the first to put those in Florida. The tincture, the low dose lozenges we just came out with. So having enough variety, but then being able to mix and match on promos instead of just having flat sales all the time, which is people just wait, bundle stuff, put stuff together. So, pre-roll promo with a distillate promo, just keep the consumer on their toes. So they're always wanting to come try stuff. Once you get them in the store, have them have a store experience that's completely differentiated. And then once they kind of get to peel back the onion a little bit on the brand story, that's how you're able to create that kind of, we've studied a lot of brands. I'm a big fan of like Tito's, what he's been able to do from an authenticity
100%.
standpoint. I love Harley Davidson is one other brand that's on in our war room on a mood board is how they were able to start with biker gangs. And now they've got 65-year-old, grandmas riding bikes, but they still have biker gangs riding bikes. It's because they kept it real. They didn't sell out. They were able to maintain the longevity because they leaned in. So it's that combination. It's truly price promo, product, having various different types of products, SKUs, as well as having, dynamic promos and dynamic pricing. And then number 3 is the power of the brand once they get to see, touch, and feel it. It's that kind of combination of those 3 that we plan for that, we're really excited to see is actually working.
So branding, lifestyle, we've seen it online for people that follow the space. Is it working? Do you find it's working? And if so, can you give me reasons as to why you believe that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm on the road a lot, and we document it all. So I like to get out in the field. I'm not sitting in home office. I'm out on the road. I'm in stores all the time, and we're doing events around the stores. We call them cannonball runs, where I'll actually bring my grow team and some of the lab team, so patients can actually meet who makes their products. And when we go on these runs, I can't go in a gas station in the middle of nowhere off I-10 Florida wearing a hat without somebody stopping me to say they love what we're doing and can they get a hat.
That's great.
We were just in Key West, and I couldn't buy a beer. Every bar we went to, Sloppy Joe's, Hog's Breath, Blue Heaven for breakfast, Louis' Backyard. Everywhere we went, every time we go, it's incredibly humbling for me as a Florida kid. Everywhere we go, people stop and are like, "We love what you're doing. How do we get a hat?" And that's why one of the things we added to our little minivan that we take on all these rides is boxes and boxes of hats, because everywhere we go, people want them. So we see it in 2 ways. There's that anecdotal way, that kind of non-tangible. You can't really quantify that in a spreadsheet, but we feel it every time we go somewhere. And the second way is our retention rate. So we track patient retention and repeat customers, and we're north of 83% on patient retention. So they're not just shopping on price.
Yeah.
So, Chick-fil-A is one of the only other companies that we can find that has an 80% plus retention rate. Our partners in the alcohol industry were kind of blown away by that number. So for us, that's the biggest tell. New patients hold steady north of 20 to 25% month over month, but we're seeing that 80% retention rate. So once we get them, 8 out of 10 are shopping with us again. They're shopping, once, basically like 2.5 times a month. So for us, that's the true way. But the biggest way for me, data aside, is when I'm out on the road. I mean, I was having dinner with my family in Fort Lauderdale the other night, and the server came up and went to his car and got his hat out of the car. I was like, "Hey, that's me. I love what you guys are doing." That happens everywhere we go. And
this is what's been missing in the space, though. I bring this up, and I don't want to obviously just promote the Sunward brand, but I ask this question is because everybody wants convenience, everybody wants variety of stuff, they want the overall experience. But what I saw missing for such a long period of time is just the lifestyle, like the branding behind it all, and with the limitations that you can and can't do. There's no other better state and better market than the state of Florida. Obviously, start doing a lot of this branding for doing everything that's being done right from a business perspective and how it can scale up. But it's interesting to see, like, okay, what are the things that are happening? And I always love the question that Gary Vaynerchuk gets asked the day after the Super Bowl and somebody spends $5 million on a 30-second ad. Did it work? And his response is, I don't know. Ask me in 6 months. And it's accurate,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, exactly. And I give big credit to we have an events team. So to your point, Chad, you mentioned, cannabis, we have so many handcuffs on us. We can't text, texting programs are hard. We can't have mainstream media. We can't do a lot of banner ads on websites. We can't do this. We can't do that. So we leaned in and focused on experiential marketing. Same thing Red Bull did. So dear friend of mine ran Red Bull's event marketing team for close to 22 years on the East Coast. We poached her, brought her on board, and basically are running a similar playbook as Red Bull because it worked. And we've been doing, last year we did over 375 events throughout the state, from surf contests to concerts to, garden days to flower shows to sporting events to name it. We college football tailgates, pro football tailgates. We'll be at Tortuga this year. We've done all the concerts, Fin Fest up and down the beach, Reggae Rise up in St. Pete, you name it, we've been there. And the amount of people that we've been able to interact with, where they're at an event, they meet us, they get to go by, we're capturing their data on an iPad so we can we bought the business. We had less than 5,000 emails and texts or phone numbers. We're now well over 150,000. And that's all organically.
150,000?
Yeah. And the biggest single thing people want when we do those events is these.
Yeah,
they will give us their data for a hat. So my cost of acquisition is right around $6.50. And once I get them, and now they're given a hat, they're immediately putting it on. They're immediately wearing it around the event. And now that's, I'm marketing around the event. So it was a little bit of a road less traveled. And it's a harder thing for some of the more corporate medicinal companies to do. It's hard to go to have one of these companies that ends in a Leaf or an Eve show up at a reggae concert and have anybody really take them seriously. So that's a bit of it's something that, we kind of had to have the stones to do it and also have the brand that would allow us to do it.
Yeah.
And it's like the musicians love us. Now that the guys, various different bands that are nationally touring bands are wearing our hats on stage when they're playing in Arizona.
That's sweet.
That part of it's pretty cool to see that happen. It was an investment. My board thought I was nuts.
I love the story of JP DeJorio with Patron tequila, and basically he was dropped off a case of tequila that was twice as much as any other tequila at the time at Wolfgang Puck's place, and a lot of celebs had come into his place and sample, and then next thing you know, in a GQ magazine back in The Line of Fire, Clint Eastwood, early 90s movie, and he was being interviewed, and he was just like, smoking on my whatever Monte Cristo cigar while sipping on a glass of Patron. And then Bruce Springsteen, when he was on tour, said the same thing. And it was just, ended up being like wildfire. Yeah, it just snowballed. But that's interesting to say the least. Hey, you know what? If anyone subscribes to our daily newsletter right now, we're going to give away some TDR hats. How's that sound?
I'm in.
One thing I've been curious of, Brady, and I mean, you might not have an answer to this, but the Florida market's rapidly developing. Like, we're looking at adult use moving forward. It's matured over time. Do you think that we ever get to a point where they integrate wholesale into this market?
I do believe at some point they will.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I can't tell you when I think that's going to happen, because I think it's going to take a second. But I do believe they're going to let the existing marketplace service the market until they prove they cannot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we should have some interesting news, and hopefully no news tomorrow. But here's the stat to bring to your attention. Last year, $86 billion spent in tourism spending in the state of Florida last year. This year, it's forecast to be $112 billion. So big number, to say the least. And as you said, for a number of reasons. Money, people moving down there. And it seems to be, the great state of Florida, what life used to be like before COVID, right?
Correct. It's Florida's fully open for business. It's off to the races.
Yeah. Listen, I know you got to run, but I appreciate you checking in and providing us an update. And let's keep in touch. Look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks at Benzenga.
See you guys soon. Thank you.
Hey, Brady.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Mover and shaker right now, doing lots of business. But yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. It'll be interesting to see what that money will be allocated towards. But, he knows Florida, knows it best. And anybody that's situated in that state right now, they are putting all of their game plan together, pushing in all their chips, because as we've said before, this is a very lucrative market, right?
Yeah. Yep. It's going to be a big market. I mean, I've always been a fan of what they're doing with the brand. I think the cannabis space lacks brands. It's just been a supply and demand story so far. As we get down the road and as the industry starts to mature into more of an adult use market, brand power is going to matter. And I mean, like he said, if he's got a 5 clip of a $6 billion market, it's $300 million in revenue. It's a nice business.
Yeah, that's for sure. We got to get down to the Florida Keys. I want to just walk around. Like, imagine just like theater of the mind, the way he was describing that. We're meeting up with people. They recognize him with the hats and stuff like that. That's the kind of stories I think that everyday users or should say people that follow the space want to see. It's the emergence of an industry that's becoming more and more accepted within pop culture. Of course it is, right? Speaking of Florida, tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. before this vote, actually, I shouldn't say vote, but Supreme Court makes their comments. We've got an in-depth video that you and I did with Anthony Cogniglio, and it's about the great state of Florida. We dive in deep. First, we did Pennsylvania. 2 weeks ago, we did Virginia, and our next stop is in the great state of Florida. So we're going to push that out tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Our producer, Mitch, will have everything all lined up and ready to go on our back-end YouTube channel. So make sure to watch that as we launch that tomorrow. As well, as I've always said, leave comments below. Smash that like button. As again, we get more feedback from you, the greater chance that this video has a chance of going viral. And we want these conversations to go viral to bring attention to this space. And again, leave lots of questions if you guys want us to ask specific questions related to our trip 2 weeks from today in Washington. So looking forward to that. What an experience it's going to be.
Oh, yeah.
And a week from today, we actually get the ball rolling in Washington. As I said earlier, Nancy Mace will be joining us. That'll be really, really interesting to see what she has to say. Rob Seacrest, who put this all together, he'll be joining us on the podcast as well. He was with Nancy last week at the Bill Maher show. And anyway, needless to say, he's got some connections and was able to arrange that. And it's going to be a great experience for us. And I'm sure it's going to be fact-finding for you, me, and our audience. So good stuff, right?
Absolutely. Look forward to it. I mean, she's a high-profile politician that's been a friend of the cannabis industry for some time.
Yeah. Last thing I want to bring up, as usual, please, if you can, log on to thedalesreport.com. Mitch, if you can add that link in, please subscribe to our daily newsletter. And we're going to put together a little promo, I think. But yeah, anyone that subscribes, we're going to start giving away some hats. Brady Cobb, he's quite the marketer, so it's probably not some bad advice. But if you can, let's put together, obviously, a little promo. So anyone that's subscribed, I'm going to get some hats over to you and make this more lucrative. Most importantly, the information that we have, cutting edge, leading edge by our head of research, Bill McNarlin, outlining all the latest developments in the space. Again, log on to thedalesreport.com and subscribe to the Baked In newsletter. All right, that wraps up things for today. And as again, we'll have the Florida episode out tomorrow morning. And Good Friday is a holiday. We'll be back on the community page to give you guys an outline if we are going to do another live stream here this week. Still up in the air, but we'll let you know by tomorrow morning if we're actually going to be up and running at 4 o'clock tomorrow. But in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day. And hopefully within 24 hours, we got some positive momentum pertaining to Florida. But appreciate your time. And I'll see you tomorrow.
Yep. Talk soon, guys. Thank you.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. And if you want to learn more about the emerging industries that we cover, then leave a comment below and let us know who you want us to interview, the questions you want asked, and the information that you want to learn. We want to hear from you. As usual, click on that bell for all notifications to get the latest information. Share this video with your network, and don't forget to subscribe.